All right, check this out, truckers. So I am going to put you on game as best as I can about avoiding these companies in Chicago. Some people call it Chicagoland. I call it scam land, all right? Because the biggest trucking companies in the United States are typically in that area, and they are some of the worst trucking companies you could ever work for. All right, so I'm gonna tell you my story, right? So I worked for a few of them, and because of the things that were happening that were causing me to be broke and basically poor out on the road, um, I had to try my best to find another company that would come in on their promises. Um, None of those companies ever stand on their promises. I'll start right here. So I worked one time at Super Ego. Everybody heard about Super Ego. That was when I first got a taste of uh this scam bullshit that they got going out here in these trucking industries. Okay. Um I left there because I wasn't making any money. I was always in the negative. There was nothing I could do to get out of the negative. I was in the negative, and what was happening was I was getting promise after promise after promise that eventually I was going to get up out of the negative, in which they loop you into thinking that you are going to get out of the negative while also giving you these little itty bitty advances every week to keep you satisfied, because I guess they figure you're a crackhead and you don't know nothing else other than just live in a truck and eat off of their little $50 advance every week, right? That's the kind of shit I was dealing with Super Ego. My bills were not getting paid, and I was constantly facing eviction at home, all right? And mind you, I'm a truck driver, so normally eviction wouldn't matter, but of course I have a family, and I'm the breadwinner in my family right now, okay? So kids got to eat, wife got to eat, shit got to be taken care of. I'm out here running the road so I can make sure my kids is good, my family is good. All right, so I left there after I met somebody on the road who told me about another company that they worked for, right? And this company was called Extra Transportation. Now, this is kind of before I really knew that Chicago was full of these type of companies, right? So I'm coming to Extra Transportation now, not to be confused with the company that, the letter starts with an XTRA, right? That's not the one. This one has a bunch of aliases too. They call themselves AG Express. They call themselves Extra Transportation. And when you sign any bill of lading or when you check in or whatever the case is, they're gonna have you check in under some other fucking garbage name. All right. Got with that company. They promised me that I could own a truck in, I think, 9 months or so. Tried to stick it out with them, man. Was not getting paid nothing. Once again, I got bills I got to pay. Lights got to stay on. Water got to go on. At this time, my wife is working, but she's barely kicking up enough cash to make sure that these bills get paid. And everybody's wondering, well, why the hell am I not making money? Truck drivers should be making money. This is like one of those pastime jobs or careers that ensure that you could have a good, decent living, as a middle class or lower class, whatever you want to call it. So, okay. So I stayed there the longest, like an idiot, thinking that something was going to change. I could not believe I was going through this, right? So I said, all right, I'm not doing that again, right? So left that alone. And not too long after that, and I don't know how I kept it like I must be halfway stupid, right? Because I don't know how in the hell that I just kept walking right into from one to another to another. So I took some time off, and then I get this call from this other company. This company is called 011 Freight. Man, 011 Freight is another one of them ones where you will be working your ass off and having the question. Now, this is what I will say about 011 Freight. 011 Freight will make sure you get a check every week. But let me tell you something. You can't live off of $300 or $400 every goddamn week. It doesn't work like that. And no matter how many miles you running, you'll run a lot of miles. They'll just keep, your check will still just be fucked up. It'll continuously be fucked up. You just won't ever get ahead. You know what I'm saying? And it's the way they do their math. Like, don't ever fall for that math. That math is flawed on purpose, okay? So, I end up leaving that company, man. I was so fed up with this shit. I left that company. I didn't even bother to turn the fucking truck back. I ain't even gonna lie. So fucking fed up with them companies. I parked that truck right in front of my yard. They sent somebody to come get the damn truck. I didn't fight them with the truck. I let them take the goddamn trucks, right? No issues. So you would think I had learned my goddamn lesson about messing with them companies. And at the end, I'll tell you why it was kind of a pattern, you know, to the reason why I kept messing with those companies. Because, of course, I had an issue with something on my MVR. You know, but we'll talk about that close to the end, right? So, so now then here goes a recruiter from this company, DBH, DHB, Santa Freight, whatever you want to call them. I think they are also part of Super Ego. I think every single last one of these companies I just named, somewhere down the line, are branches of Super Ego. If not, they're all somewhat related to each other in some kind of way, right? They're a family of business owners that own that trucking industry that exists out there in Chicago, okay? This one, by far, is the fucking worst. It is by far the worst company. Type in DHB or DBH Holdings. I'm saying the acronym backwards. I want to say it stands for delivery brokerage. I don't know. I'm not even gonna guess. Just know this. You can go to Trucker Report. You can go to different places. Type in DHB or DBH Holdings, or type in Santa Freight, whatever you want to call it, and you'll find some information on them. Okay, I'm gonna do a part 2 to this video, but in part 2 I'm going to be revealing some other stuff, and then also I'm going to let you know what the MCDOT is. All right, so if you want to find it a little bit easier, stay away from these companies. Now, my story on this particular company. So, I'm at the house chilling, still looking for jobs, still trying to make sure I can get to, you know, feed the family, make sure my lights is on and all of that kind of shit. I get this call. Sir, I got a, position for you up here, with DBH Holdings. We're not affiliated with Super Ego. That's what they all say now, because Super Ego is facing a lawsuit and everybody's trying to distance themselves away from Super Ego. Let me tell you something. The story I'm about to tell you is about to really make you feel, or it's getting ready to make Super Ego look like it's an angel, all right? So, the first lie that they tell, oh, sir, go ahead and, book your ticket, come up here to Chicago. Chicago should have been an alarm to me, but I fell for it again, y'all. I fell for it again. So, I spend $200 and something on the ticket, get on a plane from Greenville, South Carolina, up to Chicago, okay? I get there, they send an Uber out. Uber takes me to the place to do the orientation, right? Okay. So now I get there, we doing the paperwork. Seeming like everything is falling through and everything is good. I get told that they were going to reimburse my plane ticket. Now let me tell you something. I could have called bullshit on that, but I like to think that, okay, if you said it, then maybe that's something that you do. But see, when you're dealing with these These people, most of the time, they're just lying to you to keep reeling you into the business. All right? Because you're a sucker. Like, they want you to be a sucker. They think you're an idiot. And they target people from different places, but mainly from the South, right? They think that people from the South are idiots or whatever. Okay. So they draw you in by telling you a lot of lies. So they told me they would reimburse my plane ticket. Okay. All right, boom. So I'm in there filling out paperwork. They run my paperwork. And they was like, sir, we can go ahead and get you in the truck now. Okay, cool. Now, mind you, this is Wednesday. This is like the middle of the week, right? They finally get me in the truck after all of the paperwork was done. It took a few hours, but got me in the truck. And they had already had a load ready for me. So I'm thinking, man, this is quick. This seemed good. I called my wife, telling my wife, yo, they already got me a load. You know what I'm saying? Because when I was with Super Ego, the loads were bullshit, and it took them a while to get me a load. But with this company, it was like they already had a load, and it seemed like it was a decent paying load, right off the back. I think it was like $2,000 or something like that. Okay, you know, freight rates is kind of weird, but to get something that's at least $1,500 to $2,000 right off the back is pretty decent. All right, depending on the mileage. So, so I start running, right? I make over $7,000, and I started late. I started Wednesday, right? I started in the middle of the week, and I busted my ass and still made about $7,000, right? Okay, cool, no sweat. The next week comes. Now, next week I'm thinking I'm about to get paid, right? No pay. That Friday, I asked them, yo, where's my pay? Oh, well, sir, you're in the hole. Like, what do you mean I'm in the hole? Nobody said anything about being in the hole. Like, that wasn't what I was told. I wasn't told I was going to be in the hole. I was told I would get paid the following week. Well, I don't know who told you that, sir, but, you know, I said, I can tell you who told me. Your recruiters. Oh, well, we buy the recruiters. You know, whatever they said to you, that's on them. And I said, well, if you got a recruiter representing you, wouldn't you think that it would be good to make sure that they're telling the fucking truth? Because they represent you, which means that if they say it and you're paying them to represent you, then that means that they're misrepresenting you, and you should do something about that, because now you got people who was believing one thing and something else is happening, right? So those are red flags already. So already, you're not going to reimburse me for my plane ticket. And secondly, already you lying about when payday is, okay? So I was like, all right, cool. I'm not even going to trip. We'll just wait another week, see what happens, right? Here's where the bullshit starts to come in bad. I'm in Oklahoma, and I'm driving. And if you're on, I forgot which highway I was on. I want to say it might have been I-40, right? So I'm on I-40 coming through Oklahoma, and it was dark, and so I couldn't really see the way station. There's a small way station. I really didn't see it like that, and I passed it right on up, right? I know people think you're lying. I don't have no reason. If I'm believing everything is straight, I would have no reason to just pass it up for no reason, right? I'm thinking all my paperwork and everything is good, so I just didn't notice the way station. I passed it up, right? And all of a sudden, these blue lights are behind me, right? So state trooper is behind me. Okay, he pulls me over, comes to the door. He said, the reason why I pulled you over is because you missed the way station. All right, cool. He says, do me a favor, go back up the ramp, come back down, come back down westbound, and then get off the ramp at this exit, and then come back down eastbound, and go back to the station. All right, cool. So I make the maneuver, get all the way around, back to the way station, right? I get there, they tell me to pull over into a parking spot. I'm sitting there thinking, well, what the fuck is going on? So I go inside, and they have this little device that can check barcodes or, QR codes or whatever to see if they fake. And they got my registration because some of these companies in Chicago, they'll tape the registration on the window, and they also keep one in your book. Well, they took the registration and they put a blue light on it, and he was looking at the barcode, and he looked back at me and he said, "Your registrations are fake." He said they are fake. They're bogus. And I'm sitting there mad as shit, like, well, what the fuck do I got to do with that? But at the same time, I'm like, why would I have fake registrations? It makes no sense. Well, come to find out, these jackasses at this company, BHS or DBH Holdings, Santa Freight, LLC, whatever they are, these MFers have counterfeit fucking information. All the way down to their titles, everything. Like everything is bogus. I wouldn't be surprised if the truck that I was driving was probably a stolen truck. The trailer I had was probably stolen. Who knows if they were stolen? They probably, the paperwork was jacked up. That's all I can say. So this is where the bullshit comes in. So now, Oklahoma DOT fines the company about almost $3,000, right? They didn't fine me, but they wasn't going to let me drive that truck until they paid the $3,000. Now, let me also say this, sidebar. It wasn't until after I got pulled over by DOT that one of the jackasses inside, I think his name is Owen, one of the jackasses inside of the in the group chat that I'm in, was like, make sure you avoid, Oklahoma, because they'll tell you to avoid the way stations. That's another thing. They'll tell you to avoid the way stations, right? That ain't the reason why I avoided the way station, because like I said, I didn't get that message until after I had already got pulled over. But they was basically telling me to avoid the way stations, right? And I ended up finding out why I had to avoid the way stations, because they have bogus ass registrations. The registrations are bogus all the way around the clock. All right. So, they had to pay $3,000, about $3,000, roughly around $3,000 a fine in order to let me go. So they paid the money. Oklahoma let me go, and we get up the road, everything cool. So I'm sitting there like, I'm chuckling like, okay, y'all shit ain't right, but they let me go. It is what it is. Must not be that big of the deal. Payroll comes around. I get my first settlement. My first settlement is $800. Right? I'm looking at everything in my paperwork, and, well, let me say this. First off, I didn't get my settlement right away. They forgot to put in my information for my settlement. And what these sucker ass, bitch ass, lame ass, scamming ass motherfuckers did, what they did was they forgot to put in my payroll, and they claimed that it was an accident. Lion is one of the guys. I don't know if these are their real names. They probably faking their names or whatever, but his name is Lion. He probably some macho dude that on steroids that think he's tough or whatever. He thinks he's a real lion. All right. Anyways, dude said, oh, well, it was, and I got all of the messages to prove what I'm saying. I'll post them if I have to. He said, oh, well, my bad. It was my bad. I forgot to put your go ahead and send your money through or wire your money through to your bank. Okay. I said, please fix that, because I needed to pay my rent. And it's around the time where I'm facing eviction, and I need to pay my rent. And so he's like, I'll figure out how to get this, get this right for you. Okay. All right, cool. So I'm upset. I'm mad. I'm livid, because I'm like, yo, I waited till the time y'all says we get paid. You claim you forgot to put in my payroll. Y'all don't forget to get y'all money, but you forget to get my money right. All right. So So, I didn't say nothing right away about the deductions because what was really fucked up is they took $600 out for registration, and I didn't understand why they took that out. But I said okay to myself, I was like, all right, that's their little fee. Now the $800 net was like already ridiculous to me because I had grossed $7,000 something dollars, and I just couldn't understand why it was so low, other than I saw this large ass $600 registration fee, which I've never seen that long. It wasn't until the next pay period when I realized that they took another $600 out, that they were penalizing me for losing the money that they lost for having bogus ass registrations, right? When we went to Oklahoma, when Oklahoma pulled me over. So basically they were punishing me because Oklahoma DOT found out that they was running me with some fake ass registration. All right, and they got penalized for it. And so they dropped the penal. They started penalizing me for it, basically taking $600 at a time out of my check. I don't know where these goofy ass people come from in Chicago, but or what region of the East that they come from. But this is America, and you don't really fuck with people's money in that way. Like, this is weird. Like, this is super weird that y'all are allowed to do that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna tell my story about y'all, whatever, when y'all do shit like that. So, when I initially got now I'll go to the second settlement in a minute, but let me talk about the first settlement. So the first settlement comes. They send me a money code, right? An EFS money code, which is fucking annoying because if you know anything about EFS money codes, if you gotta put it on a check and they gotta give you the cash, it doesn't go into your bank, which means now you gotta go find a bank to put your money in, and they've already took a fee out of that money. And because these bastards are so cheap, and when I say they're cheap, I'm not saying that without, like, I'm really not exaggerating. These Serbians, they are extremely tight with money. They get frustrated from you asking for a fucking simple EFS code so that you can get some money to get something to eat, right? Because they think you're supposed to, a machine, like you're just gonna run these thousands of miles, and then off of the little bit of money they give you, like you're just gonna be able to survive off of that. Like they are evil. When I say they're evil, they are extremely evil, and I'll get to the worst things in a second. So yeah, they gave me the EFS or whatever, but they didn't even give me the EFS right away. They waited until I dropped the load off to give my EFS. So it was kind of like their way of saying, we're not giving you anything until you drop this load off. We're going to withhold it. Now, this is money that's already owed to me, and they're withholding it until I make a load. So, all right. So I ate that shit, man. I ate it, right? So now, let's go to the next week. No, we ain't gonna go to the next week. This is a lot, man. This is a lot. So, okay, so yes, we coming to the next week, right? I'm driving down the highway. I think I'm in Maryland at this time. Driving down the highway. There's like this chunk of metal in the middle of the road, right? By the time I see it, and there was like a lot of cars in the road. By the time I see it, I was able to swerve around it fast enough to get the tractor around it. But the trailer, of course, everybody knows that the trailer comes a little bit slower. So the tractor basically, in essence, like ran over it, and it got hinged up in the axles. So it messed up all of the tires on the left side, and it bent one of the rims. Okay. So now I pull over. I called him. I said, yo, we got some tire issues right now. And I can't go nowhere because my rims are bent up. It's kind of fucked up situation right now. So it took them forever, right, to really respond. I was sitting out there for like hours, and we was already behind on getting that load, getting that load out. We didn't even get the load out because at that point it was just like, I think maybe the customers was like, whatever. So DOT comes out. Somebody called State Trooper DOT. They come out and they knock on my door and they say, first Geico comes out, right? I'm guessing this is maybe the company's insurance. They come out. They check my shit and they must have called DOT because DOT or State Troopers wasn't in sight until right after Geico left. So DOT comes, they check, they look at it and they said, we got a report that you might have hit some siding or some rails or something, right, in Maryland, somewhere in Maryland. I said, I didn't run over no side rails or nothing. Like, they was basically implying that somebody reported that I swerved off the road, tore some rails up or whatever like that. Some shit like that. All right? Which there was no evidence that was true, right? Even the state trooper went all the way down the highway looking for this tore up fucking side railing that didn't exist, right? So they was already treating me like I was lying. So he comes back, he's like, well, I just can't find where, where the railing and shit is messed up. I don't see nothing out there. You know what I'm saying? And he saw the marks where I pulled over immediately after running over this metal. So I didn't get ticketed. I didn't get no citations. I didn't get nothing, no fines or nothing, because they couldn't prove that I did anything because I didn't do anything. The only thing I did was swerve around the piece of metal, right? But my trailer still caught the piece of metal. Okay. Long story short on that, they left. The trailer got towed, okay, and I was told by Owen, which is one of the dispatch guys, to go pick up another trailer. So I go and pick up another trailer. Hold on one second. So I go pick up another trailer, abandoned Super Ego trailer, right? This company claims they're not part of Super Ego, but they running Super Ego trailers all over the damn place. So I go pick up that trailer. No sweat. Payroll comes back around. Settlement time. It's Friday. I'm looking for my pay. I get a settlement paper, and my settlement paperwork says that I only made $400. And I'm livid, y'all. Like, I'm like, what the hell is going on? So my first check was $800, which they took $600 out. I didn't trip about that at first, even though I should have, because the promise was that we was going to be able to make at least $2,000 a week. They'll lie to you quick without even really telling you or breaking down the math on how that's supposed to, how that works. You got to do your own math, right? It just didn't make any sense. So now, that my check is $400. I'm looking at it like, ain't no fucking way. So I'm looking at it deeply, and I see that they pulled another $600 out for registration. And on the side of where it says registration, it says something like payment 2 or 4. So they was gonna, so retrospect, they was going to pull another 600 the next week, and then the following week after that. So that's when I clicked to me. I was like, y'all are penalizing me for that fucking Oklahoma thing. That's what y'all are penalizing me for, because there would be no reason for y'all to take that money. It makes no sense. So they were penalizing me basically for that. Okay. I get mad. Like, I'm telling them, like, at this point, I had just picked up a load, and I was supposed to be taking this load to Texas, right? I'm pissed off. I told them I'm not taking this load to Texas until I get. Now, let me slow down. Not only they took another $600 out of my check, right? I realized they took the $600 the first time. I wanted that money back. Like, that's that first $600 you took, and this $600 I want back. Not only they didn't give me that back, they didn't even put the $400 that they believed that they owed me. They didn't even put that in my account. It didn't even go to my account because they were going to play me again. And what they did is they wanted to see my reaction, and I was not happy. I was pissed off, and I pretty much cussed them out. And I told them I was not dropping this load off in Texas unless I get my money. And Lion, Mr. Macho Man Liar, started running his mouth about, oh, well, you're not going to blackmail me either way. Okay? He claims that I was blackmailing him because I said I wasn't going to take no fucking load to Texas that I picked up in Massachusetts until I got my money. So I'm headed down to South Carolina because if I go to Texas, I'm going to detour to South Carolina because I had already asked to go to South Carolina, but jackass Owen decides to make a decision for me and sends me down to Texas because he claims, oh, it's no good loads down there in South Carolina. Whatever, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to still take a detour. He even recommended it, and I still took a detour. I could have shot straight across Texas. I decided I was going to go to South Carolina first. I want to go see my family. And I wasn't going to take that load to Texas until I got my money. Here they are promising me, oh, well, you'll get your money EFS, the money that's on the statement. You must not be understanding me. I'm not taking this load to Texas until I get the 600 plus the 600 from last time, plus the 600 from this time, plus that $400 and something that you owe me. That equals out to about $1,600 and something. I need that before I go to Texas. And I told them. And then they asked me the next morning, are you going to still do it? Are you going to still take it to Texas? I was like, no, my plans is not to take my ass to Texas until y'all pay me my money. So when I got to South Carolina, I parked the trailer in one area, parked the truck in another area. Not to hide it from them, but because the place that I parked the trailer at is a place that I know is safe to park it and not worry about nobody taking it. It's full of cameras, and it is a place that is safe to park your trailer. All right? And the truck I parked at a location that I believe was a safe place to park it, which is where one of my friends stay at, and they could keep an eye on it, right? I do this on purpose to make sure that people can keep an eye on my equipment, all right? Because there's some places in South Carolina you don't want to just leave your truck. It'll get taken, all right? So I'm standing on business. At this point, Monday comes around. The load is supposed to be delivered in Texas. I'm still in Greenville, South Carolina, because I did not receive my money, and they was going to try to pay me that little funky $400 EFS code, and they still hadn't given me the other $600, the other $1,200 that they owe me, right? So then they mad talking about pay us the $7,500 from when you wrecked the trailer. I said, bitch, wreck the trailer? I didn't wreck your damn trailer. I said, first off, I told you what happened. If I was at fault for what had happened, then guess what? DOT would have wrote me a ticket. They would have said it was my fault. It was not my fault. If you want to sue somebody, if you want to take money from somebody, then why don't you sue the goddamn state? Because that piece of metal should not have been in the road. I ran over it. It was an accident. I could not see it very well. So let me take that back. I could see it, but when I did see it, it was at the last minute. Because by the time the vehicle that was in front of me swerved around it, I didn't swerve around it myself, but the trailer didn't move fast enough, couldn't get around it fast enough. Something was going to hit. It was either the tractor was going to hit it, or the trailer was gonna hit it. If the tractor had hit it, I would have lost control. Probably would have been somewhere in the grass somewhere, flipped over. It was better that the trailer had ran over it than for me to have for the tractor that had ran over it. So anyways, they claiming I owed them $7,500, and that's the reason why they was retaliating against me and decided they wasn't gonna give me my money. So now I'm over here chilling, whatever. I'm waiting for them to let me know what they're gonna do if they're gonna give my money. What they do is they got some bastard that lives in Greenville, or they got a runner. They got somebody who will get on a plane or on a train or whatever in a car, or they live around the area, and they'll go and they'll fetch any one of their vehicles that is left anywhere inside of Greenville. Now, I didn't quit. I just refused to take a load because they wasn't paying me. So what they did is they confiscated the truck and the trailer. I didn't abandon it. I parked them. And I told them I will take the load when I got my money. They didn't want to pay me my money. They took the tractor. They took the trailer. Here's what was real evil about it. My wife gets food stamps, right? So when the food stamps come, and we got a few kids, you know what I'm saying? So when the food stamps come, she usually allots me around 150 to 200 so I can put it in my truck, so that we can, keep the kids fed and everything, and I can have some in my truck. That way I ain't got to use them fucking EFSs that they don't want you to have away. I just put $200 of fresh, brand new groceries in the refrigerator in the cabinets. These motherfuckers came and took the truck, didn't even let me get none of my stuff out of it. They kept all my stuff, didn't have the decency to give me none of my stuff back. None of my stuff. And it pissed me off. It hurt my feelings because I'm like, yo, that $200, if it was going to be like that, I should have just left that with my kids. I didn't think that was, I should have never even touched it because I didn't think they were going to come and they was going to do that. I thought they were going to at least just tell me, yo, we're not going to go through what you're asking. So just clean out the truck. We'll have somebody to get it. I would have very well cleaned out that truck and let them get their shit. That's what I've always done. When 011 was on their bullshit, they came and got their truck. The man walked up to my door, knocked on my door. I saw him when he came up. I gave him the key. He took the truck. Everything was cleaned out and everything was nice and fresh. These motherfuckers stole my groceries. They stole whatever shit I had up in there. And I didn't even think they was going to do that shit. And so now, I'm telling you that when you work for a motherfucking company that does evil shit like that, bro, stay the fuck away. And these trucking companies are horrible. And I pray if we don't go into World War III soon, that one of these fucking politicians shut that bullshit down in Chicago, and that all of them Serbians out there who running them companies, that they go into poverty, man, because that is such an evil thing that they doing to black people or to anybody who's working on them. And they have so many bad reviews, all of those Chicago companies. Super Ego recently had called me while I was dealing with this bullshit with Santa Freight or BHS, whatever it's called. And Super Ego, they called me. I'm gonna tell you what these motherfuckers did. They called me, and I'm gonna leave it alone after this. They called me and they said, yes, sir, you used to work for Super Ego, right? And I said, yeah, I did. Right? So then they was like, well, we just had a big major clean out. The owner found out that the managers and the dispatchers were stealing money off top and not giving, the people the wages that they were supposed to. This is the lie that they're going to lead with, because really the whole company is a crooked company. But what they're going to do is they're going to say that there are people that worked in the company that they had to fire because they were stealing money off the top of the rate. That's why now when you go to some of these companies, they have to give you a rate con, basically showing what the broker and the dispatcher decided on, so that they won't be trying to trim the money off at the top. They try to trim the fat and give you the bullshit, right? So basically stealing money from you, all right? So So they said, well, we got rid of all those people. They was bad actors in the company, and we just wanted to know if you wanted to come back. So, I listened to it for a minute. I said, okay, that's great. You know what I'm saying? If I had problems now, I was lying. I know damn well I ain't going back to no fucking Super Ego. But I said, if I have any problems with this company, and this is while I was working with DBH. I said, if I have any problems with this company, then I'll come back over there or whatever. It's all right. It's cool. Right? So what did I want to go to? What point was I trying to go to? So they did that, right? So that is then when I realized, or I found out, that these motherfuckers had a lawsuit against them, a major lawsuit, right? So I'm curious. Like after all of this shit happened with DHB, they done took my damn truck, took my trailer, and all my shit that was inside of it. I'm curious, right? I'm not looking into going to Super Ego. I just wanted to know a little bit more information. So I called the recruiters there, right? Recruiter answers the phone and says, hey, but the way she was saying it was like she was so like on the defense. And so I was like, hey, she was like, hello, who am I speaking to? And I said, I used to work for Super Ego. Click. She hung up right in my face. I called it again, and she was like, a recruiter is going to reach out to you. And then she hung up in my face again. And I said, wow. I said, okay, that's weird. So somebody called me back, and it was like, had a bad attitude too. They was like, sir, a recruiter is going to get out to you as soon as possible. So the recruiter calls me, and he's like, sir, you want to come back to the company? He's like, we want you to come back to the company. And I said, sure. I said, well, what do I got to do? And he said, you got to send me your license, send me your medical, basically the same shit you got to do when you get these companies. You send them your license, send them your medical card. They get it approved or whatever by their safety department or whatever the fuck they think they got going on, whatever scam bullshit they got going on. And I never did it because I wasn't serious about joining them. I just wanted to see what they was on. And whatever they doing, I don't know how or why they except that the only thing I can think of is you're recruiting people because you don't want them to be part of the lawsuit, that the class action lawsuit that's going on. Man, let me tell you something. I have paperwork from the time that I started, settlements from the time that I started working with them. And I have the contract from when I started working with them. And I've already put in, y'all, listen, be smart, y'all. If you ever work with one of these companies, if there's a class action lawsuit, get you some money and stay away from these Chicago companies, because the worst companies so far that I've ever had to deal with is this current company I just left, or that just basically abandoned me because I was asking for my fucking money. Yeah, I'm gonna make it hard on them because I'm telling you, there's so much that I can do and I will do, and I pray that their company and they collapse, and I pray that they go in poverty, man. I pray that they can't feed their children. Like, you might think I'm fucked up for saying this, but I pray that they can't feed their children. I pray that their children can't feed their children, because you don't do evilness to people like that. There are real people. Like, I'm not a crackhead, yo. I'm not gonna sit around inside of a truck for hours upon hours driving, making deadlines for you. You waving or dangling a little $50 advance around in my face like, here, you can have this as long as you work your ass off, work hard like I'm a fucking slave. I'm not a crackhead. I don't need your $50. I don't need your $200 or $300. That's not going to keep me in your truck. I'm going to be wondering what the fuck is going on with my money. And you lucky, and this is a message to y'all bastards, you lucky I'm not the guy who I was back in the day. Because the guy that I was back in the day, I would have not only set your truck on fire and your trailer, I would have came back to the recruiting office where I met you guys. Whether it was y'all specifically that was in that chat group, Owen, Kohan, what's his name, Lion, and whoever else is in that chat. Even if it wasn't y'all at that recruiting office, I would have gotten my vengeance. I would have done something. You could interpret it the way you think it is, but I would have done something, and it would have been bad for all of y'all. That's what would have happened. Something bad would have happened to you, and I probably would be in prison for the rest of my life. Interpret that the way you want to interpret that. You understand? Y'all are going. I'm warning y'all now. You Chicago trucking companies, I'm warning y'all now. Y'all are going to get hurt fucking with people and their money. That is a no-no, even just amongst black people. But you're going to fuck around and you're going to get hurt messing with black people and their money. And I'm telling y'all this right now. I'm warning you. It's not me that's going to do anything. I'm going to let you learn the way that I've known a lot of y'all to have to learn. But I'm telling you now that somebody ain't going to be as courteous or as merciful as me. Somebody's going to come in there and there's going to be brain matter on the wall. I'm trying to tell you. That's all I got to say. Now, for everybody who decides that you want to go and work at that company or any of those companies, if you just like to learn a hard lesson, then go ahead and do it. If you don't want to learn a hard lesson, then don't do it. And that's that. Peace.